Hello, beautiful unicorns. Welcome back to my weekly Get Your Shit Together live guidance with Yana, Kasperczak, with myself, where I help you do that, where I help you to start getting your life in order and get your shit together where it matters most. And it really does help when you bring me the topics that you want me to cover for these Get Your Shit Together weekly live guidance lessons, trainings, if you will, whatever we want to call them, live videos or podcasts. Yana Kasperczak, your spiritual awakening core energy coach, and my soul's purpose is to help you get your shit together so you can break free from that mental prison that you find yourself in and live a fulfilling life that you are proud of and love to wake up to every single day. And today, the topic that we're going to be covering and talking about is dealing with our triggers, one in particular, or two in particular, but that is rejection. Rejection number one, it's in relationship, and rejection number two, it's in business. Because many of you are in a relationship, whether an intimate relationship or not an intimate relationship, and many of you are also in business, whether you're working for someone or you're working for yourself. Dealing with rejection is a crucial skill. It is something that each and every one of us gets to learn throughout our life, and then when we get to a certain age, the things that we have learned, just like a computer, they become outdated. The programs that when the computers just came around, I don't know if you had access to one of the very first computers when those things were around, they are absolutely nothing like the computers today. And those computers, they still exist, but they're so outdated that they wouldn't be able to function on the new systems or with the new systems. And the same thing goes for us. We are like a computer. There are systems that are ancient and antique and they work perfectly fine and they're great, and there are systems within us and programs that no longer work for us. There was a day and time or a moment in the period of your life where you knew how to deal with rejection, and you were a master at dealing with rejection. You might remember it, you might not, depending on the age and the stage that you were in your evolution. But you knew how to deal with rejection because you found a way to get what you wanted anyways, and you still probably do. There are things in your life that you will get no matter what, no matter how many times or how many different ways someone rejects you, that you find a way to get what you want. So you still got it. You still know how to get it, how to work past rejection and not allow rejection to completely bring you down and shut down your systems where it's like chaos and you can't function, you can't do anything. So before we go any further, I just want to make sure that I have my video on here, and it's slowly opening so that way I can see the comments, because I don't see them on my phone yet again. Thank you, Facebook. I can tell you don't like me to go live in the group, which is Heal the Unicorn Spiritual Awakening for Women. So if you're not in the group and you're listening to this video, watching this video or podcast on another platform, please come and join us. There's so much gold in this group, and not to mention, just this video plus many others from everyone, especially those of you who aren't here already commenting. So come and join the group. And Facebook doesn't allow me to go live in the group through my computer, so I use my phone for that. Plus the camera is a little weird when I go live through Facebook. But anyways, here we go. Let's hello Debbie, hello Rebecca, hello Laura. How are you ladies doing? Rebecca says I had an OG computer. Yeah, how was that? How was that device? I remember back in Russia, my parents got this computer, were so excited for it, and it was literally black screen with neon green writing, and there was only one game on that computer, and that game was where you have a little dash on one side, one end of the screen, and the other dash on the other one, and you have a ball that will be ping-ponging from side to side. That entertained me for a little bit, but that wasn't my go-to game. I just went back being outside and being part of the world that is outside of the devices and tech. So some things have changed and some things haven't changed. And then Rebecca said, I also used a typewriter for my first year of college. Ooh, that must have been fun. I wonder if they still have the typewriter, because those things now, you don't see that many of them, and they're more, you can find them in antique stores, and they're not cheap anymore. And I would like to acquire a typewriter one of these days, just, you know, just for the fun of it, and at the same time so I can write my own things in there. It's a whole entirely different experience, going back to the old times where things were, I want to say, more fun, because it took so much more energy to typing than what it does now. You're sitting like this typing, whereas before you literally, you can get a workout for your arms, whereas now it's just for your thumbs, right? You can use a thumb or one thumb depending on how you type. And then Rebecca said, I love that, especially the noisy printing. Oh, the computer's printing or the typewriter, because both of those were noisy. Noisy printers, and the typewriter itself was really noisy. Okay, so I should have kept my typewriter. It was much less forgiving when you make a mistake. Yeah, that's the other part. But if you are a true believer in there are no mistakes, that everything happens for a reason, then that typo, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks, but you couldn't go, it's like a live video. You can't go back and redo it. You can't go back and take parts out. And that's one of the reasons why I love live videos and I prefer live videos and recorded. That it's there, it's done, you see me for who I am. There is no hiding, there is no filters, there's none of those things, aside from pretty lights around, which you guys see. But anyway, so let's go right into the topic now. Okay, now we had a little bit of chit chat to make sure everybody got some time to warm up and feel welcome and hop on the live. So I wanted to share, first let's talk about I want to ask you a question. When you are rejected in your relationship, let's talk about the relationship first. And, you know, maybe for the business, I'll do a separate video or just cover it up a little, cover the business a little bit, because that one is a lot easier. If you can deal with rejection in your personal relationships, it becomes so much easier to dealing with rejection in business. And it's similar, but in some areas it will be different, because you don't have for most of the businesses, when you are working with people, you don't have the deep connection with those people as you do in your personal intimate relationships. And that's why if you are dealing and struggling with this trigger of rejection in your personal relationships, it will transfer into your business. So if you deal with it in your personal life, then you are also healing yourself in many different ways, that dealing with rejection in business is no biggie. Yes, there's going to be moments, there's going to be times when you will feel pain with rejection when it comes to business. I have been there, I have done that, and I have, you know, overcome this trigger for the most part, but there's still going to be old wounds that get re-triggered and resurfaced, and those are just reminders that there's a little bit more work that needs to get done, and an opportunity for growth for me, for that specific trigger. And until I have uncovered all of those triggers with the rejection trigger especially, and only then will I be able to basically deflate the rejections and not allow them to affect me or the rest of my day or the rest of my weeks. Whereas back in the day, which feels like so long ago, but it wasn't even that long ago, just thinking back even 2 years, where every time I would feel rejection, I would just go into the victim energy level and spiral out of control, because it feels like chaos, it feels like spiraling out of control. You know, to the outsider it seems like I'm in control and I got everything and I know what I'm doing, but on the inside there's turmoil, there's a lot of pain, and there's a lot of suffering. And little by little I started learning what rejection is, and really understanding that it's not personal. Very rarely is it actually personal, and it's actually about you. More often than not, it's about the other person and what they might be going through and what they might be interpreting from you, and trying to read you and trying to make sense of what you might be thinking and feeling, and translating it in their own mind and saying what they say, and which can cause you to feel rejected as well, or can cause them to feel rejected. Okay, so now that we covered a little bit about rejection, I want to hear how rejection shows up in your life, and how do you feel? Use words that really resonate with you, of how you feel in that moment, your feelings, your emotional state. What are the thoughts that are going through your mind? And usually it's one specific thought that keeps going over and over and over in your mind, like a record player that has gotten stuck on that same song and keeps jumping back and keeps jumping back. You know, we're back in the blast from the past, bringing the old computers in here in this conversation, bringing the typewriters in this conversation. Let's bring the record players in here as well, because all of those things are coming back in style, are they not? So let's bring these things back. Maybe how you used to be triggered, and what were your feelings and emotions back in the day when you were a child, when you were a teenager, when you were in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and whatever age you have gotten to evolve through, grow through. And here's what's popping into my mind is that most of us are not going to remember our childhood, meaning that we won't actually remember where or from who we had learned our way of dealing with rejection, our default program, you know, that outdated program that is no longer serving you, no longer serving me, of where it came from. Where did I learn to deal with it? But it does go back to our parents. Most of you are parents, meaning I also want to mention that how you're dealing with it now is most likely how your children will deal with it when they grow up. And the age that your parents were at, how they were dealing with rejection at that age, can actually be quite similar of how you will deal with rejection within the same age bracket as your parents were at that time. So just planting those seeds in there as well. So we're setting examples for our kids and how they will deal with rejection as teenagers and as adults. Recognizing your default program, so recognizing how you're showing up, recognizing your thought patterns, recognizing your patterns of feelings, your patterns of your emotional state, recognizing your patterns of your body language as well. That's going to be another topic we'll cover at another point in time, talking about body language. But body language is actually quite important when it comes to noticing rejection in someone else, noticing that they're triggered, that they're feeling rejected, and within yourself as well. It is easier to notice it in others than it is to notice with yourself. But if you start to pay attention of when you are feeling rejected, and you become aware that right now I am triggered because I'm feeling rejected, take the time to focus into yourself on how, I already talked about the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions, but your body language. What state is your body in right now? Is it tense? Where is it tense? Because it's going to be tense. Is a certain part of your body pounding? Maybe your heart is really pounding, or maybe you start to sweat, stress sweat, or maybe you feel chills, or maybe you feel hot throughout your body. Maybe you get some tingling in a certain part of your body, or maybe you start to get a headache or migraine headache. Paying attention to your body and how it's communicating with you with this trigger can help you to understand. And also your body language itself, your face. How does your face look? You can look in the mirror. And at the same time, how does your face feel? Where there might be some tension in your face that you're trying to hide, but the other person, they can read. They can read energy unconsciously for most people. So paying attention to your body language as well, recognizing the default program, catch yourself when you are feeling triggered, and stop yourself from going back to your old ways, to your old programming. I know it's easier said than done, but it becomes easier with practice when you know exactly what you can do to replace it, the new program that you want instead. So taking the time to figure that part out for yourself. So if this is the state that your body goes into, if this is the thought pattern, the pattern of your emotions and your feelings when you are feeling triggered when it comes to rejection, and you clearly don't like it, because otherwise you wouldn't be here listening to this video, to this live guidance, that what are you going to replace it with? Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's going to change. You got to know what you want instead, and also why you want it, what's in it for you. Otherwise you're not going to do it. And then bringing yourself to a place where you actually decide that this is what you're going to do now. When you're feeling triggered, the trigger is the rejection in your personal relationship. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to allow yourself to feel. You're allowed to feel rejected. We're not here trying to get you to completely get rid of this emotion of rejection. It is a very helpful tool for all of us to experience, because we get to learn through rejection more about ourselves. So if you're expecting yourself to never feel re-triggered with rejection after you've worked on it, that it'll never come up again, then this training and this type of this is not for you. And in life we can't expect to not have certain emotions and feelings. It's very normal. It's a human response. So what we're here is to help you to know what you're going to do and how you're going to go about it, so that way it doesn't have the crippling effects on you that it once did. That you know exactly what to do, that you get your shit together when this trigger comes back up for you, and you're cool, calm, and collected and confident in approaching it and overcoming it and in dealing with it. So allow yourself to feel. Acknowledge and accept your emotions, and that it's very natural and completely normal to feel disappointment, or sometimes even feeling angry when you are rejected. You're a human being. Rejection is part of being human. It is. The triggers that we all have, they're all part of being human. And I know there was part of my life where I just wanted to not have any feelings or emotions, and I fairly quickly started to understand that I would just be like a robot, and that part hurt as well. And it hurt because here I am feeling so much, and I don't want to feel any of this anymore. I just want to feel numb to life, to the world. But I can't. And then recognizing that the opposite side of that is that if I didn't, I wouldn't even know what love felt like. What, you know, what it would feel like for one of my kids to come home being upset over something that happened at school. I wouldn't be able to help them with any of that if I didn't have my feelings and emotions. I'm able to do that because I have those feelings and emotions, because I have dug into them deeper and started to understand them more. And without them, I would not be able to help them. I would just be like a robot and tell them this, and that, but I wouldn't truly be able to help them. Because when someone is emotional, they need an appropriate emotional response. And if I didn't have emotions, I would not be able to give that to them. So becoming more grateful for these emotions, these triggers, the depth of feeling and the capacity to feel so deeply is something that each and every one of us gets to learn how to really truly be grateful for them. And just in a process, it lessens its hold on us, where we become appreciative and grateful for them, and we become more in control of them. So not wanting those emotions, it causes us, we're rejecting them as well, right? Since we're talking about rejection. So trying to reject our feelings and emotions is not going to help. So instead of rejecting them, allow them in. Allow them to go through you. And when they go through you, they will leave. But if you try to reject them, and if you try to say, no, I don't want to feel this way, that's you rejecting. So understanding the patterns within yourself of how you might be rejecting rejection, how you might be rejecting your trigger, whatever the other triggers might be. And instead of rejecting them, how do you allow them in and fully try to understand them as if they are your best friend that is hurt and upset and needs a little bit of understanding and love and attention from you right now. The next thing that you can do is take a moment, step away from the trigger itself. Give yourself some distance between you and whatever triggered you or whoever triggered you, so that way you can see much more clearly. So you get some perspective from that distance. It might mean go for a walk, it might mean go to a different room, it might mean go take a bath. Whatever that distance means to you, or looks like, or sounds like to you, or it feels like to you, then you go and you take that break for yourself. Speaking up for yourself is very important. Sometimes you need to gather your thoughts and your feelings and emotions and then come back and have that conversation. And that one is actually the one that would be best for everyone. Because usually in the relationships, there's one person who wants to solve the problem right away. Talk about it right here and now. And the other person needs a little bit more time to think and process. So they can gather their thoughts and they can think more clearly, because they're just, through their life, they probably have gone through quite a bit of trauma, whether they remember it or not. And most people will not remember those traumas that have caused them to become a person that needs a little bit more time to process. That's me in a relationship where I do need that time and space to process and gather my thoughts and think and feel more clearly. Sometimes it might be minutes, sometimes it might be hours, sometimes it might be a couple of days until we can come back and have this conversation where I am no longer emotionally charged, or not as emotionally charged as I was, and I can actually speak openly and clearly. But that communicating openly and lovingly is going to be key, because everybody deserves to be heard. And at the same time, you don't want your partner to start creating their own ideas and thoughts on what you might be going through and trying to interpret you when they don't even know you entirely. No matter how long you live with someone, you won't know them 100%, because you don't even know yourself 100%. So how can you expect someone else to know you 100% when you don't even know yourself 100%? And you don't even know anything or anyone 100%. 100% doesn't even exist. It's like perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. It's an idea, it's a concept. It's not an actual thing. It's not something that you can, reach one day and that's it and say this is perfect. Because when that happens, guess what happens? You're going to discover there's a whole new level, right? And there's something new. That's the exciting part about life. Through communication, you will also can ask for clarity to help you in understanding this rejection. You can do that within yourself to gain clarity, like as I was talking about earlier. Or through conversation, you can ask for clarification, because what you interpret as rejection might not be rejection at all. Now, if I bring business into this, I'll use an example when you're going to ask for a raise. This one I hear very often. So when you go and ask for a raise and your boss tells you, no, we're not going to give you a raise. More people than not will not see clarity as to what does that no mean and try to understand, why am I not getting a raise? They will say, okay, thank you. They will be upset about it. They'll cry about it. And more of those people end up leaving and going to a different job and opportunity because they felt hurt, because they were rejected. Now, if you ask for clarification and have a conversation with your boss as if they are a human being and ask probing questions that will help you to understand, why not? Do you mean no ever or no for now? Why might that be? What can I do to get that raise? And you might find out that the business isn't doing so well, so they can't afford to give you a raise as much as they would love to give you one. They just can't afford it. So then it means that it's nothing to do with you or about you. It's something that is outside of your control, nothing you can do, because you're great, you're awesome. Many bosses won't even tell you that you're awesome, you're great, but we can't give you that because of this, because of that. Some will, but many won't, depending on the boss, right? A leader will tell you. They will help you to understand why they can't, and then will give you some kind of a timeline or a deadline by when let's meet again in 2 months or in 3 months and have another review, and then we will talk about that raise again and put that in the calendar so that way it's there. It's not just something we say let's meet in 3 months and it's actually never in the calendar. So you also want to make sure that if someone says to you, your boss says to you, let's talk about it, that okay, well, let's put that in the books, let's make sure that happens. Schedule that next appointment before you leave the office. So clarifying and taking time to understand what you are interpreting as rejection might not be. It might be something in a relationship. This one happens in every relationship where you want to get intimate with your partner, but they're not in the mood and you feel rejected. And you go to, I am not good enough, what about me, what did I do wrong, and start spiraling. Whereas if you just ask a question, even in that moment, are you okay? What's wrong? To try to understand what might be happening, because they might be dealing with something at work, or they might be dealing with something with a friend that they don't come and talk to you about, and they're literally not in the mood. And you might think that it's something about you. Is it the way that I look? Is it the way that I came on to you? Is it the way that I smell? Or is it my hair is not nice? You start negatively judging yourself and making it about you, whereas maybe it's not about you. So take a moment to get clear on, is this even rejection? And is this about me? Because in that moment, you might be at a place where you can actually help your partner to feel better and then end up getting what you want by simply having a dialogue that clarifies. And then all of a sudden they're like, ooh, she is amazing. She's so awesome. She gets me. She hears me. And I am so turned on. Right? Right. All right. Another thing that you can do is maybe there's boundaries that was crossed. So checking in with yourself after you have reflected on yourself, on your feelings, and on your emotions, and this rejection trigger that you have come up for you, to see maybe there's some boundaries that were crossed that shouldn't have been crossed, and remind, whether it's by the other person or within yourself, an emotional boundary that was crossed, to protect your emotional well-being. So doing that. And then maybe another one big reason why we can get triggered sometimes and feel triggered that we are being or feeling rejected is because maybe you haven't spent time taking care of yourself, your personal, emotional being, your self-care and self-love practices. And if you don't engage with the self-care and self-love practices on a daily basis, it's only a matter of time until you go into a sensitive state where almost anything can be misinterpreted as rejection. And so it might be just, as you're doing reflection, you might recognize that, ooh, I haven't taken care of myself in this way or in this way or in this way, or I didn't get to meditate, or I didn't get to exercise today, or I didn't get to go for a walk today. So making time for that. I talk about support systems. Having someone you can go to help you through that time, to help you through understanding that trigger itself. You can only understand so much as you're doing your own self-reflection and working on yourself, but having someone else outside of you to go to, whether it's a friend, whether it's a therapist, a counselor, a coach, or I was going to say emotional support dog, but those can really give you the feedback that you need, that you're looking for. You need someone who can talk back to you and not use those push buttons where the dogs can talk back to you, because, it's still an animal. So when you are feeling triggered, it's important to have someone to go to, someone to talk to, someone that you can just vomit out what you're going through, to share that with someone, to unburden yourself. And of course, you're not going to go to your gossiper friend because they're going to share that with everybody else, right? Unless you want them to. And even then, checking the intention behind, I would want this gossiper friend to tell everyone about this. The intention would not be a healthy one behind that one. And typically, I don't see anyone in this group or in this community being in that way. But I just want to say, because what if, right? Anyways, so having those trusted people to go to, individuals that can provide you the support, the comfort, and the guidance that you need to go forward. Remember not to blame yourself. That not everything is your fault. You might have played a role in that trigger, but not everything is your fault. You are not, even though we feel like we're the main actors of our movie and that we're responsible for everything in our movie called life, we are not responsible for everything. Even in the movie, you have the main actor and you have many actors around. You even have the what do you call them, the background people in there as well. So when it comes to your life and your trigger especially, you're not the only one that's 100% responsible, 100% liable for this trigger. You got triggered because there was external sources that have seeped into you. So don't blame yourself, but at the same time, recognize what part you played in this scenario, in this experience, and learn from it. And then when you have that conversation, a clarifying conversation with the other person, you can learn a little bit more about maybe what you did wrong, or what you thought you did wrong is not the thing that they have seen you do wrong, and vice versa, where you can help each other to grow and evolve in a very healthy way, so that way you can grow and build together and not be at war with one another. And relationships do involve two people, and the factors contributing to rejection may extend beyond your control. And in some cases, it might be even beyond both of your controls. There might be someone else trying to meddle in your relationship and trying to give help and support and advice, but in the end, they're doing more damage than good. I already talked about lessons from the experience. You can even write those lessons down, so that way you can remember and reflect back when you're, I don't know, if you're the type of person that takes time to review your journal or review your most important notes throughout your month or week, to reflect back on your growth and evolution, where you were on Monday and where you are now on the following Monday. How much have you learned? How much have you grown? If you're that kind of person, then this is definitely going to be helpful when you're writing things down in your experience, so that way you can go back and reflect on them. And also, one day you might go back to this specific journal, these notes, and it might be something that you needed in that exact specific moment to help you to the next level. And also, be patient with yourself. Like I was saying earlier, that's something that I practiced to learn about myself as well, is that depending on a trigger and how deep the trigger has gone within me, it might take me a couple of minutes, it might take me a couple of hours, it might take me a day or a couple of days to work through it, and then have that conversation and to be able to get through it. And that is a reminder that there is no time limit. You cannot put a deadline on by when will I feel better? By when will I have a comeback? Or by when will I be able to communicate openly and clearly? Because when you're just starting off with communicating clearly, or talking openly and honestly, and speaking your truth and using your voice and expressing yourself, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's something that is going to take you some time to get to, and each and every one of us is different. And on top of that, each and every experience and trigger that we go through, it's going to be different as well. Even if it's the same trigger, it might be experienced differently, which means that the amount of time that it might take to process it might be different. And another thing keeping in mind is that just because you're now ready to have the conversation and you have that conversation does not mean that everything is going to be fixed right away. It might mean that after that conversation, you might need a little bit more time to process and understand and work through and have another conversation afterwards. Just like with that boss conversation, asking for I already forgot what that word is. For a raise. I haven't been in the 9-to-5 job in quite some time, so forgive me if I forget these words and these languages. So with the boss, when you're asking for that raise, you're going to take the time to make sure that you schedule the next appointment, because not always will you come to your solution and resolution at the first point of contact, at the first time that you have that conversation. So going back to it again, and maybe again and again, keeping that in mind, that is what might end up happening. So that way you go deeper and deeper and deeper into this trigger, and you really start to heal it on all the levels. Now with the business, like I said, it's very, very similar, but the first thing I want to say is, when it comes to the business, it's not personal. It definitely is not personal. It might feel personal, but it's not personal. It's business. And keeping your personal from professional separate is also important. So that way you don't end up getting hurt in the end. I have been there, I have done that, where I became very attached to some of my potential clients, and in the end we ended up going separate ways, and there's nothing that came from that. So I learned the hard way, as we all do, we all learn the hard way, that it has nothing to do with me, it has everything to do with them, right? That it's not about me, it's about them, that they're going through. And you know, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and if not, then not. I did everything that I'm supposed to, I'm meant to, and I did everything I could. The rest is up to the individual. And that's it, right? That's it. That's all there is to it. That's the phrase that comes to mind. Staying calm and composed, that's going to be key, because when it comes to your business, your career, you're not going to flip out. You're not going to lose your shit. You're not going to, you know, educate them right there in the moment, or try to, the word harass comes to mind. You're not going to harass them and trying to get them to say yes to you because your feelings got hurt and you feel rejected. Because to the previous point, it's not about you. Don't take it personally. And it becomes easier with practice. Same thing with the boss. When you're asking for a raise, don't take it personally. It's not about you. Unless it is about you. But chances are, if it was about you and you knew that you were not the best employee or whatever kind of employee you were, that you wouldn't be going and asking for a raise. Whereas I've actually have been at a company where a person was doing almost everything wrong. And I don't want to say everything wrong, but it felt like everything that they were doing wrong. They were coming to work late. They were trying to leave early. They were not helping out when, you know, they were not doing any extras at all. They were not helpful, supportive to anyone else. They wouldn't help to train anyone. They were just doing their bare minimum and less. And then they would go and ask for a raise. So in that instance, a boss that is a good girl or a good boy, they'll say no and try not to make you feel bad about it. And it's important to have that conversation so that way you can learn from what you're doing wrong and what you can do better. Whereas some bosses, a boss will tell you, a leader will also explain to you, but in a way that is not painful and hurtful to you, and it's not personal. Whereas a boss will tell you and say, how dare you come and ask me for a raise when you do this and this and that, and they'll point out all of your flaws and failures and make you feel really, really horrible. So in that case, it is personal, but at the same time, that means that your boss is taking it personal as well and making it all about them. And that's why they're responding in that way, whereas a leader would not take it personal. They see that there's a lot of opportunities for growth and evolution, and then what they will do is they will help you to put a plan together to become a better employee, and then schedule a time to have the next conversation and a review, so that way we can see how much have you done and grown. Okay, and then let's talk about the next steps, and then we'll talk about the next steps, and then after those next steps, okay, now I think you deserve a raise because you have proven to me that you are worthy of one. Asking for feedback is another one. Whenever possible, ask for constructive feedback on why the rejection occurred, why someone said no to you, so that way you can learn from it and do better next time. Or, you know, why are you saying no now? Is it something that I can do? Whereas in most cases with what I do, for me, it is rarely, actually has never been about me. It has always been about what the woman has, because I work with women, what the woman has been going through, what she's dealing with, and her own blocks and insecurities that often come up as to why it's a no or a no for now. Whereas with with the boss, like I said, they might tell you what are the things that you got to work on, so that way you can improve and become better in that area, in that aspect. Maybe the way that you approach something can be done in a different way. So reevaluate the way that you approach things and try it in a different way. Same thing in a relationship. The way that you approach situation, do it. If it didn't work this way, try it in a different way. That didn't work, try it a different way. Didn't work, try it in a different way. The chances are, you, through this scientific experiments, you're going to figure out what works and how it works, and also learn why it works. And you'll figure out your own formula on how to get a yes versus how to get a no, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a business. And maintaining professional relationships. The key word here is professional. You don't need to be going and talking about all of your private family matters, your private things that you're going through, because then that relationship is not going to be a professional one. It is going to be more of a friend one. And this is one of the things that I had learned in the past as well, where one of the reasons why a woman didn't want to work with me, or chose to go in a different direction, is because she felt more as a friend and didn't see the ways that I could actually help her, limiting her own, and this is my assumption, that she ended up limiting her own way of her own growth, because I still had a lot to offer. I just didn't express it. I didn't talk about it enough. I didn't want to be pitchy or salesy or try to get her to want to work with me. In that way, I just thought, hey, we'll be friends, and when we're friends, she'll want to work with me. But when you become friends with someone, and really, really friends with someone, they might only end up seeing you as a friend and not someone who can actually help them with what they're going through, or the help that they're actually looking for. So keeping it professional. Focus on your strengths. So remind yourself of your strengths and your successes, and don't let rejection overshadow your capabilities and achievements. Remind yourself of who you are and your self-worth, because you might have forgotten that in a moment. And perhaps maybe setting new goals might be helpful as well, which will help you to redirect energy and focus on something different and new. And sometimes it might be that the goals that you have already set in place might not be as achievable. So coming up with new goals, or reevaluating the goals that you have and making sure that they're actually achievable goals and not something that's unrealistic. And also can help you to just stay focused and straight and narrow, just focusing on these goals, and this is what you're doing, and not dwell on the past and the past experiences and spin out of control. Celebrating yourself, your success, and your achievements, just like in personal relationships. And when you're triggered with rejection, when you have had that first conversation, celebrate your success. When you've had another conversation and you finally have come to a solution or resolution, and both of you now are on board with you have the same goals, the same things in place, and you're both on board with it, celebrate that. You can celebrate within yourself, and then also celebrate it together as a unit. Doesn't always mean that you gotta go and have some lavish outing. It could just be at home where you get to spend some time together, because maybe you haven't, or you get to play a game together. Do something bonding and fun. Or even if you go out together, just go out for coffee. Something nice and simple, not crazy and lavish if that's where you're at. Or maybe something nice and fancy. And the last thing I want to mention for overcoming rejection in your business is more like a reminder that there was a book, I can't remember the book is called, but Get to Your 100 No's. That is a goal for many entrepreneurs, or was a goal for many successful entrepreneurs. Get to your 100 no's, and once you get to past the 100 no's, you're going to build resilience. You're going to learn how to embrace resilience, and those no's are not going to hurt you anymore, because you've heard them all, and now the goal is to get to the yes. And no longer the goal is to get the 100 no's. Becomes a toolkit, a tool in your tool belt. And it'll help you to understand that these setbacks are normal, that it is expected, and it will help you to bounce back much quicker, and also help you to grow thicker skin. So that is all that I believe that I have for you guys in helping you to understand dealing with triggers and trigger of rejection in relationship and in business, so that way you can live the life that you actually want to live. I want to invite you, before I go into the comments, I want to invite you all to, I'll put a link down in the comments later, but I want to invite you all to book a 30-minute free 30-minute get your shit together session with me, call with me, where I will listen into the things that you want to work on and help you to get the first steps in place to overcome whatever it is that you're working on, so that way you can go forward confidently, knowing exactly what you're going to be doing and why you're going to be doing it. So that link is going to be down in the comments, or it'll be in the bio somewhere, or around this video, depending where this video pops up later on. But I know there was quite a few comments that came through, so what I will do, Laura said, we didn't have operating systems like Windows typed Word or Lotus 123 spreadsheet at the doc prompt. I still know a lot of my DOS commands. Yeah, I know none of those. Those are the things that never stayed with me or stuck with me. They just, in one ear, out of the other. And then Rebecca said, I think to myself, I suck and never will be good enough. Then I have to remind myself that's not true. So it sounds like you also, so by the way, thank you for sharing that, because a lot of us can relate to this phrase, to this thought pattern that I suck and never will be good enough, that comes up in the spiraling of our minds as the record keeps playing the same record over and over again, and that you have the discipline to remind yourself that that is not true. That is just a part of you that is keeping you small and not allowing you to live the life that you actually want to live. So reminding yourself of who you truly are. That's what it sounds like you're doing in this moment as well. Laura said, I feel like I'm not, let's keep scrolling back, not good enough, so I deserve it, and I am not worth anything. Abandonment in childhood. Thank you for sharing that as well. I know so many women can relate to this one, that I feel like that I'm not good enough, so I deserve it. So whatever it is happening, whatever it is that I'm experiencing right now, I deserved it. That this is exactly what's supposed to be, and I've earned it in a way, that because I'm not good enough and I'm not worth anything. which comes from the childhood abandonment, and also, I know, the childhood experiences where, you know, trying to be a good girl, and in the end, no one is validating that in the ways that you needed it. Debbie said, I have to go. Catch you later. We'll see you later, Debbie. I know you're going to be rewatching this. For me, Rebecca says, for me, rejection is easily triggered and usually isn't really rejection towards me. That's a great realization as well, that it's not towards you, but just rejection itself. Something that you probably experienced through your childhood as well, and now has become your, almost like when you're feeling triggered, the first place you go to is feeling rejected, when it might not be rejection itself, or that you take it in that it isn't rejection towards me, but it might feel like it's towards you initially until you start to work through it. And then Rebecca says, going back and reflecting is very powerful. It's how I am able to realize my growth when I don't notice it. And that's why I say the best thing that we can do is keep a journal that we can go back to and reflect on where we were, because we do forget. We're supposed to forget, because if we remembered all the things that we went through, it would be so painful. It would be very painful, and some people actually live in that pain state as well. Rebecca says, the word dignity comes to mind. Maintaining my dignity and self-respect. Yeah. So when we're feeling rejected, we might feel like we are not being respected, and that someone is trying to take our dignity away from us in a way. So we can find ourselves in the defense mode when we feel like we have to defend ourselves and protect ourselves, whether we explode or implode. Explode means that everybody around us gets to know what is happening inside of us. And implode means that we're doing this to ourselves, when we start to punish ourselves and tell ourselves all the different reasons why we believe that we deserved it and that we're worth whatever it is we're experiencing. Whereas, no, that is not the reality. Everybody deserves love. Everybody deserves validation. Everybody deserves to be treated with love and respect and understanding. And if they're not, then it's up to them as an individual to figure out how they can get that back. Because at some point in that relationship, whether it's personal relationship or business relationship, a boundary was crossed and it was allowed. And that's why that person continues to treat you that way, because it was okay at one point and you didn't say anything, so they don't know any better. But when you say, no, that's not okay, I don't like you to talk to me that way, you can't say this, you can't say that, you're clearly stating your boundaries. And when they're crossed, it's up to you to remind them, because if you don't remind them, everything's going to go back to the way that it was. And Laura said, you probably do. Control Z is undo and Control A is select, and all Control P is print and Control S is save. I almost all software. See, the one that I do know is Control C, which is Control Copy, and then Control V is paste. Copy and paste. That's all I know. And then you push the backspace to delete. Without any controls or anything. So those are the only things that I do remember from this keyboard, and using all the other functions on here. It's control to get the other option on, whether it's the 2 dots or the dot with a comma at the bottom. Yeah, that's all I know. And I think if I push escape, depending on what's open, because on here, if I just go and open the main page and I push escape, nothing happens. But I remember back in the day when I would push the escape button, it would help me to escape the programs, and the taskbar would come up. Maybe it's Control Escape, but I don't want to play around with my computer right now. So anyways, let me open the page back up to make sure there's, yeah, see, I did, that's what I did. When I pushed escape on my page, on my video, it brought me back to the previous page. I do know something. Is it useful? I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys for today. Once again, a reminder, I'm going to put a link in the comments below or somewhere around this video. If you are watching this video on a different platform or as a podcast, as an audio, there's going to be a link somewhere around where you can schedule your free 30-minute get your shit together session with me, where I will help you to get your shit together in that one specific thing that you want to work on, and you will have a small little plan to go forward with overcoming that block or that obstacle for you. So you'll have the next steps for you clearly identified. Other than that, that is all that I have for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. And until we see each other next Monday at 11:30 for my live card reading that I do on Mondays in this group. And that's it. Have an amazing the rest of your week, amazing weekend until next Monday or next Thursday at 11:30 Eastern time in this group for another Get Your Shit Together with myself, where we'll talk about another topic, whether you bring it to me or something that I bring from a coaching session to discuss and share with all of you that has helped one of my clients to get their shit together in something, and it'll help you to do the same thing. Anyways, that is all. Until next time. Bye, everybody. Thanks.